There's all sorts of cool things happening on this racetrack. Terms I'm learning today, attack mode being one, when the drivers really get that boost and can actually, well, use that extra energy in their battery packs. The Formula E is exciting, just like all other EVs on the electric experience. And then, once in a while, they do need to stop. You do need to take a commercial break on the show as well. And for that, you have to head to the pit stop. That's where I'm headed right now. So as you can see, this is the pit stop. The tires go right here. They're hand-cooked tires, which are standard across all Formula E cars. They're in the process of getting the car ready for shakedown. Formula E certainly is the future. When you're talking about sustainability, you're talking about performance, that sort of thrill that we get on the show often in an electric vehicle, that's come to the racetrack. I'll take you a little bit on this side as well, obviously not heading to the back of the car, but this is the confined space that the drivers need to be in through the course of the race. And look, it's really hot, like I said, in Hyderabad, and actually managing to last a couple of hours sitting right there with your suits on, it's not going to be an easy task. I've been speaking to some of the drivers as well. And of course, it means you need to be really sorted when it comes to your diet. You need to be really sorted when it comes to your hydration. And those seem like key elementary things that your mum was telling you about, but that's something that will certainly come in handy whilst you are racing these Formula E cars. Now, the difference across the Formula E seems to be the fact that all of these manufacturers work on their powertrain, because you have many technologies which are standard and similar. As we're walking across, you see, well, yet another vehicle rolling out for the shakedown. And the technology on a lot of these vehicles is where the real unique selling point comes in. So across the Formula E lineup, you might have the same tires provided to you by the FIA, you might have similar charging infrastructure from the ABB, but what really does change is your technology partnership, and that's where the India Connect is there, and it's incredibly strong. Jaguar TCS being one, Mahindra Racing with a strong India Connect as well. Jaguar, obviously owned by the Tata Group, has TCS as a partner, which gives them a plethora of insights when it comes to how you should brake, how you should prepare for the next round, where you're going from here straight to Saudi Arabia and from there to Mexico. Simulator experiences are all powered by their technology partners. Similarly, for Mahindra, we're speaking to them as well. They have Tech M, and there's a bunch of other India Connects across the Formula E, hence it has come here to Hyderabad. But one thing I must tell you is there's another small connect for Mahindra Racing, which a lot of people aren't speaking about. The reserve driver happens to be a young Indian lad from Mumbai named Jehan Daruwala. So clearly the investment is there, the intention is there when it comes to motorsport, and motorsport is officially back in India with the Formula E, and we can only hope that India's days in motorsport continue to get better, and of course our influence continues to increase. All right, we're here at the Formula E, walking the track, so to speak, with an absolute rock star from Jaguar TCS. Good to see you, Mitch. Good to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here in Hyderabad. Thanks for putting the good weather on for us. It's been good.
We're trying our best. We're trying our best.
It's cold in Europe, so it's been good to get some heat in. But yeah, just obviously seeing the track for the first time, and it all looks. It's going to be finished, hopefully, but looks amazing so far.
Of course, the last time we met, we were in London, and very different sort of weather conditions. Speaking about the weather here in Hyderabad, nearly 35 degrees Celsius. It gets really hot, and you're not going to be dressed like this when we get into the Formula E car. You're going to be wearing lots of layers, your suits on. What's that experience going to be like? Is it a little daunting sometimes when you come to, climates like this?
Yes and no. I mean, to be honest, a lot of the races we race at are quite hot, like north of 30 degrees. So we are used to it. The car is used to it. But yeah, once we get our race kit on, which is like fireproof layers, it is super hot. Mm-hmm. That's just part of the game. You should kind of have to put up with it. It's the same for everyone, I guess. But it's obviously just going to be more conscious about hydration and making sure that we're fresh for the race. Because it is an intense, so like 45 minutes. But we train for this, and it's it's all part of the job, I guess.
You know, Mitch, you've obviously you've been in GP2 before, and now with Formula E, a very different sort of a format, very different sort of an experience. But now that you're here, you've trained on the simulator so often. Now you're here at the racetrack, and we're walking the track. How different is it from the simulator experience? Because this is the first time that you were seeing the Hyderabad racetrack.
Yeah, it's the first time so far. I mean, I've only seen a few corners, but so far it's been as it was in the simulator. Now the correlation's pretty good. Even though the track, the guys that create the track models for the sim have never been here.
Yeah.
But it's pretty impressive to see how close it gets, and it helps our preparation a lot, especially with the new tracks. So I want to continue walking now, and thanks for having me on the show.
We're here in Hyderabad for the Formula E with a very special guest on tech today, who we've had on the show before, but in very different weather conditions. James Barclay, what a pleasure to have you.
That's great to be here. It's wonderful to be in Hyderabad. My first time in India as well.
I know. We discussed this a couple of months ago when we were in London. Very different climate, very different weather conditions, but you're here as well. And that brings me to my first question. The last time we met, we were talking about, taking race car tech to road cars, right? Now that you've actually visited India and experienced the weather here, what kind of learnings do you think would be there in terms of really taking that tech and bringing it to the road, and these roads, might I say?
Yeah, honestly, there's a huge amount. It's something we're always working on. It's this race to road tech transfer. And last time we met, I talked about how we were transferring lots of technology, things like our silicon carbide and our modules of our car. When we come racing though, we're here to obviously compete and win, but every time we come to a new circuit, you can learn more about the technology because the different challenges it gives us. And the obvious one here is this temperature. We expect a 35 degrees ambient temperature, which is on the higher level. And I always say with racing electric cars, it's a bit like using your mobile phone, right? You're charging it, you're using it, lots of applications open, and eventually what happens is the phone gets very hot sometimes and shuts down, right?
That's true.
We can't do that with a racing car. So on track, our job is to go as fast as we can, but operate in the correct thermal window of the car as well. So that's one of the challenges we'll deal with. The better we engineer the car and how we run the car, the more we can push that limit though. So that's part of our challenge to be successful on track for this weekend.
Spot on, James, and we wish you the best in these, torrid weather conditions. But another thing I want to ask you is the way Formula E has been shaping up this season. Porsche seems to be the team to beat. It really could be anyone's championship the way everyone's been playing. What about your experience with Jaguar TCS? Is this the season, is this the race where everything turns around for you guys?
Well, that's definitely our plan. And what we have seen in the first 3 races is that inherently we have a very competitive package. The Jaguar I-Type 6 is very fast, both with our factory team but also our customer team. We've had more cars in the top 10 than any other manufacturer in the first 3 races. So, in summary, we have a good package. If I look how competitive Sam was, first podium of the season in the races in Saudi Arabia, he was coming through the pack incredibly well. The late safety car in the second race really kind of hindered potentially our progress to fight for second or maybe even the win in Diriyah. So long story short, we feel we have a really competitive package. The goal this weekend is to continue scoring points. That's key to try and win a championship. And of course, if that means we're on the top step of the podium, that's the goal. And that's what definitely both drivers, Mitch and Sam, are aiming for, and what we as a team are really prepared for coming into this weekend.
And Jaguar TCS, Mahindra, both teams with a very strong India connection. You're here in Hyderabad, a sort of a homecoming, isn't it?
Absolutely. Ever since Hyderabad was announced, we were incredibly excited. We're a proud part of the Tata family, and this is a home race for us. It's how we feel. And with TCS as our title sponsor, we have lots of good reason why this is such an important race for us. So it's lovely. We have Hyderabad and we have London. We can have both home races. We'll have a lot of local support here. I was actually up at the TCS, one of their campuses, with about 2,000 of their employees cheering us on for this weekend. So it's lovely to have that home support, and we're just looking forward to introducing Formula E to Indian race fans. We have no doubt it's going to be a spectacular race this weekend.
James, you mentioned something really interesting. You said, driving a Formula E car is very similar to dealing with something like a smartphone. We have a lot of smartphones on the show, and one thing that happens in these sort of torrid climate sort of temperatures is that the battery doesn't always work well on smartphones. Does that change when you're talking about Formula E cars as well? If you could share that with our viewers.
Well, that's exactly the point I made earlier. So I use that example. Using your mobile phone in the sun whilst charging it is the kind of worst scenario, right? Because of that temperature buildup. So how we design the cars, one of the most fundamental things is, yes, we focus on efficiency. In other words, how how long we can make the car go as fast as we can. So every kilowatt of energy, making sure that we can utilize all of that and not lose any of that in the process. That's the first thing we focus on, because in Formula E, efficiency is speed. The other thing though, which is critical, is the thermal performance. In other words, how cool we can keep the car and the battery. Because if you overheat the car and the battery, again, it just means you have to slow down to regain the temperature, or you stop in the worst case scenario. So the way we've designed the car, the way we operate the car, the work the engineers are doing to prepare the car for the race, and the role the drivers play in helping us manage that is going to be critical. 35 degrees on Saturday, it's going to be a factor in this race that all teams and all drivers are going to have to be on top of.
Absolutely, but one factor which seems like a tactical advantage for you is the technical know-how that comes from TCS here in India. How does that play out, James? And specifically about the India leg of this, what are those tweaks? Like you mentioned battery as well. Even getting the drivers ready, I'd imagine, is quite a task. They'll be jet lagged, they're traveling across the world, their diets change, spicy food in India. There's a whole bunch of challenges and a lot of hurdles to overcome.
Yeah, there are. And one of the things we always focus on is driver preparation. If I start with that topic, they've got to be on top form. You know, two things are fundamental. Sleep and diet and food are fundamental to racing drivers' performance. As human beings, we all know, right, when you haven't slept a lot, you just simply can't concentrate.
Absolutely.
And their job is so much about concentration and feeling on top of the form. So we manage that throughout the week in preparation. They got here quite early compared to normal races. They got here on Tuesday. That's kind of maybe a little bit earlier than normal, but just allows them to acclimatise a bit more, making sure they're not going too brave on the spicy food as well, to make sure they settle in. That's a key one. But honestly speaking, then when it comes to the preparation side of it, you know, we're really proud to have TCS as our title partner. They have a huge capability, and one of the things which is fundamental in a city centre race championship like Formula E is we can't practice on this track. This track literally is still being built around us, so there's no way to practice before we come here. So we have to practice on our simulator. It's what we call a driver in the loop and a hardware in the loop simulator. In other words, the car we drive in the simulator thinks it's the real thing, and for all intents and purposes, all the driver input is allowing us to improve the car. We call that a digital twin, right? So it's a digital copy of the real car. Every setting we change should replicate how the car will behave on this circuit. That's an ever-improving process, though. The more you do, the better accuracy you get. And TCS are fantastic in terms of that digital twin technology. So particularly moving forward, that's an area we're going to be working together and really focusing with TCS to try and make that digital twin capability a real strength of our team. And it is a strength now for us, but to continue to build on that. And that's our an exciting thing. It's a great for tech lovers to think that, you know, we prepare in the digital world, and we come here with a car which is accurate to what we see in the virtual to the real world.
James, all I can say is I'm glad that this interview is happening in the real world at the Formula E in Hyderabad. We wish you the best, and maybe at the end of this we'll celebrate with a nice spicy biryani here in Hyderabad.
I very much hope so.
Cheers.
Take care.